Hello class, and welcome to Introduction to Microsoft Excel. My name is Bill Berquist and I'll be your instructor for this lesson. This is the first of a series of videos that will teach you the basics of the Microsoft Excel spreadsheet application. Topics covered in this lesson will cover the following: define Microsoft Excel, launch Excel and create a basic worksheet, format a worksheet, and then finally save a workbook. Let's go ahead and get started. What is a spreadsheet? A spreadsheet is a computerized or manual grid of columns and rows in table format that is used to enter, edit, and format text and numbers. Spreadsheets are used to create numerical reports such as payroll, loan schedules, depreciation schedules, and any other document requiring calculations and analysis. What is Excel? Excel is a computerized spreadsheet developed by the Microsoft Corporation. Excel is part of the Microsoft suite of applications. Other spreadsheets are Google Sheets, Apple's Numbers, and Smart Sheets. Let's go ahead and launch Excel and get started. Okay everybody, here I am at the Windows desktop. I am using Windows 10, but Windows 11 is very similar. There's actually three ways to launch Microsoft Excel. You can either use your desktop shortcut icon. I know it's a shortcut because it has a small arrow in the lower left corner of the icon that indicates it's a shortcut. I can use my shortcut on the Windows taskbar at the bottom of the screen, or you can simply type Excel into the search box. And there it is, and I'll go ahead and launch Excel. The first screen you see is sometimes called the backstage view, which shows you all your templates and some recently used files. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'll just go ahead and click on blank workbook. And now I'm looking at my blank Excel worksheet. In Excel, we call individual sheets worksheets, but the file as a whole is referred to as a workbook. So very often you might have a workbook with like 10 sheets, but it is just one file consisting of 10 individual sheets. Just like a book has individual pages, a workbook can have individual sheets. Every sheet is named by default Sheet 1. And as you add sheets, sheet 2, sheet 3, etc. But let's go ahead and get started with the very top of the screen, which we have the quick access toolbar. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time lecturing you. You've all been spoon-fed these ribbons and menus for the past 20, 30 years. Let's just kind of go through it very quickly. I'm also sort of gearing these videos towards the certification exam for Excel. So sometimes when something pops up that I know you'll probably see on the certification exam, I'll go ahead and bring that up as well. And the first thing is, yes, you probably will see the quick access toolbar on the certification exam, which has a lot of common buttons. The quick access toolbar is sort of a remnant from the old days when they had nothing but toolbars. When version 2007 came out 14, 15 years ago, back in 2006, 2007. They had just toolbars going across, and then they came out with the ribbon, what's called the ribbon, which is all the buttons and features along here. But your quick access toolbar has all your common buttons, and you can add and remove buttons from your quick access toolbar simply by clicking the drop down arrow and either turn it on or turn it off. Certification tests they'll have you turn one on. You can go to more commands, and you can add different buttons to your quick access toolbar. Pivot table, click add, okay, and so on. I'll hit cancel there. You can also move it to below the ribbon. So now my quick access toolbar is down here. I don't like it there, so I'll put it back up at the top above the ribbon. And then below that, we have the ribbon. Now, as a whole, this whole window is referred to as the application window. So that's sort of what we're learning about right now, is the application window. At the very top, we have our quick access toolbar. Below that, we have what's called the ribbon with our ribbon tabs. The home tab is usually the default tab. You'll spend most of your time here. At the very top is your file name, which is just book 1 for right now because we have not saved it. We haven't saved anything just yet. Once you save the file or the workbook file, you'll have the workbook name right up here. your login name, your maximize, your minimize. One kind of a cool trick with the minimize and maximize is most people, when they want to maximize their window, they go right up here and hit the maximize button. You don't have to do that. Just roll your mouse anywhere in the title bar, and this isn't for Excel, this is for all Windows applications. You can simply double click the title bar and that maximizes it. Double clicking it again restores it back to where it was a moment ago. So I'll just double click my title bar and that maximizes it. You have your close button, which is the red X up here, which that hasn't changed too much. Now below here you have the ribbon, and this is where you access all of your features. If you're wanting to get certified in Excel, you really need to know your ribbon first. The certification exam is timed, so you don't want to waste a lot of time looking around for features. Oh, where's the margins? Is it here? Is it over here? Is it down here? Oh, it's under page layout. There it is, margins. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to go right to page layout, pick margins, pick orientation. You really want to know your ribbon when you're going for the certification exam. There's 3 neat tricks with the ribbon. You can click File, and this brings up your Backstage view again, okay, with your open and save and all your standard Windows application commands. But there is 3 neat tricks I want to show you with the ribbon. The first trick is you can hide the ribbon, hide and unhide it. Most people do this by accident. They double click the Home tab and the ribbon goes away. If you need it, it's there. You can get it back again. But once you go back to work on your worksheet down here, it disappears again. Okay, yeah, a lot of people do that by accident, but simply double click your Home tab again and your ribbon will come back permanently. Okay, so double clicking the active tab will hide and unhide your ribbon. You can also do a Control F1 on the keyboard, I think, and way down here there's a little launcher button, the collapse ribbon. Yeah, it is Control F1. Okay. And you can get more space on your worksheet if you hide and unhide your ribbon. The second trick is you can actually scroll through. Now I'm using a regular mouse. I'm using a Microsoft Surface computer here. But if you have a regular mouse, which is what I like to use, you can move the scroll wheel on the mouse back and forth, moving it forward and back, and you can scroll through the ribbon tabs just like that. So it kind of gets you through the ribbon a lot quicker. If you're going for the certification test, this really comes in handy. Real world, it comes in handy because it cuts down some time, and you can learn your ribbon very easily that way by using the scroll wheel. I'll go back to my Home tab. The third trick is kind of neat, is what if your mouse is broken? You can actually tap the Alt key, ALT, tap the Alt key on your keyboard, and all these access keys come up. So you can actually activate the ribbon commands using the keyboard. So if I want to go to page layout and change my margins, I'll hit the letter P. Okay, and then margins, I'll hit the letter M. Then I can down arrow to custom margins or hit the letter A, and there's my margins dialog box. Okay, and I can change my margins. So yeah, 3 neat tricks with the ribbon. Double clicking the active tab hides and unhides it. The Alt key brings up your access keys, and you can scroll through the tabs using the scroll wheel on your mouse. Okay, so there's 3 neat tricks with your ribbon. Beneath your ribbon is what's called your formula bar. And the formula bar consists of 2 places. You have your name box, which we'll talk about later, and your input line, which we'll also talk about later. So I've got my quick access toolbar, my ribbon, the 3 cool tricks with the ribbon, and then my name box and my input line. Collectively, the whole line is called the formula bar. Beneath that, we have what's called the worksheet frame. Okay, the worksheet frame. I'm getting kind of older, and one of my favorite games when I was a kid was a game called Battleship. And the Battleship was sort of a manual spreadsheet. You would put these ships on this grid, and you had letters and numbers going across the top and down the left-hand side. And each intersection, I think you'd have like a missile or something hitting your ship, or missing your ship for that matter. But yeah, the spreadsheet kind of looks like the old Battleship game a little bit. Um, so I have my grid of columns and rows, just like in the Battleship game, and I have letters going across the top, numbers down, going down the left-hand side, and each intersection is what we call a cell, just like a cell of the human body. Okay, and the intersection has a column letter and a row number, and that's how we refer to that cell address. So right now my cursor, that's that dark border surrounding the cell, I'm sitting on cell C4. I can always look up here in the name box and see what cell I'm sitting on. The default cell, when you open a brand new workbook, is always going to be cell A1. Okay, column A, row 1. And you can click anywhere on your worksheet. You can click and drag and highlight multiple cells, multiple blocks of cells. We'll get to that in the next lesson. Okay. I have my different cell addresses, my A4, my D4. Okay, if I want to go someplace far away, I can go up here in the name box and type in C1000, and that jumps me down to C1000. I'm just scrolling down with my mouse here. You can go to the very bottom. There is an end to the worksheet. If I do Control down arrow, there's over 1 million rows in my worksheet, 1,048,576. If I do a Control Home, that always takes me back to cell A1. Kind of important to know the dimensions of the worksheet. Same thing if I scroll across. Once I get to the end of the alphabet starts all over again. I can do Control right arrow. And the last column is XFD. I believe there are 16,384 columns in my worksheet. I've never seen a worksheet that big in my life, but that's how much we have. Okay, that's how much we have. And let me do a Control Home. There we go. And I'm back over to cell A1. You can also highlight blocks of cells. Like, let's see, we'll do a simple one. That'd be A1 through C10. Upper left corner, lower right corner. And any block or section of highlighted cells we called a range. Okay, we call a range. We'll be dealing with a lot of ranges when we start building our first worksheet. All right, at the very bottom, we have our taskbar where I'm in ready mode. And I have my zoom setting down here. Here's kind of a cool way to do your zoom. I'm going to hold the Control key down and then move the scroll wheel back and forth. And I can zoom in. I believe the range is 10% to 400%. Let me see real quick. Yeah, 400%. And then all the way down to 10%. Yeah, so between 10% and 400% is my zoom range. Okay, I always zoom in nice and big so I can see my worksheet. There we go. At the very bottom there is your sheet name. If I want to insert a new sheet, I can simply click the plus sign. Now I have 3 sheets in my workbook. Remember, this is one file, one workbook, but my workbook now has 3 sheets. Okay, I have 3 sheets. Then of course you have your scroll bar along the bottom here, and we have my vertical scroll bar. I don't use those too much. If I use any, it'll probably be the horizontal scroll bar. Okay, if I use anything, it'll be the horizontal one most of the time. All right. Okay, looks good. So that's a little bit about our application window. We have our quick access toolbar. We have our ribbon. I showed you the three cool tricks with the ribbon. Double click, hides it and unhides it. Scrolling through, scrolls you through the tabs. And the Alt key turns on your access keys if you want to use the keyboard for your ribbon. Then we have our formula bar consisting of the name box and the input line. We have our worksheet frame. We have our individual cells and our cell cursor. And we have ranges of cells. We have our status bar, which we're in ready mode, and our zoom setting, and our sheet tabs. Okay, now that we know a little bit about the application window, let's head back to the classroom and talk a little bit about the worksheet design process. Now that we know what Excel is used for and we've explored the Excel application window, let's discuss the worksheet design process. The 5-step worksheet design process consists of the following 5 steps. What is the goal of the worksheet? Why are you building it? Enter raw data into the worksheet. perform calculations and verify, format the worksheet, and lastly, let's print and distribute. Let's go ahead and discuss our first worksheet. Our first worksheet will consist of the Atlantic Computer Warehouse Company, where we fix, sell, and consult companies on computers, and we're going to create a revenue and expense projection for the first 6 months of 2025. This is the money we think we're going to bring in and the money that we think we're going to spend for our expenses. So our goal is to calculate the projected profit and loss based on the revenue minus the expenses. The second step, we're going to enter the raw data, such as the months of the year, January through June, the revenue amounts, and other text items. We'll also be entering the expense amounts as well. Step 3, calculations. We're going to get totals, then overall profit and loss. We're going to get monthly totals for our revenue and expenses. Then we're going to subtract the expenses from the revenue and see what our projected profit or loss is going to be based on previous projections. Then we're going to format the worksheet. Step 4, format the worksheet, make it look good, format it, bold, italic, all that fun stuff. Font colors, okay, lining up our information, making it easy to read. And then lastly, we're going to print the worksheet and distribute. We're going to print the worksheet and give it to whomever wants it, email to whomever wants it. So let's go ahead and go to Excel and build our first worksheet. Okay, everybody, here we are at a blank Excel workbook. Since we already know our application window, let's go ahead and get started. By default, your cell cursor always starts off in cell A1. So let's go ahead and type in our worksheet title. We know the goal of our worksheet. Now we're sort of on step 2 of the design process, typing in all the raw data. So let's see here. I'll type in Atlantic Computer Warehouse, and I'm going to hit enter. When I hit enter, 2 things happen. Number 1, the entry gets assigned to the cell, and 2, the cursor jumps down to the next cell. I will type in 6-month revenue and expense statement. Oops. Okay. Notice my data is appearing in 2 locations. It's in the cell, and it's also up here in the input line. Remember, the entire bar up here is called the formula bar, but it can pretty much consist of 2 parts, my name box and my input line. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter, and the entry gets assigned to the cell and the cursor moves down. Now here's sort of a neat trick. Sometimes when you type in data, it can get a little annoying that the cursor jumps down to the next cell. You can prevent that from happening. Let's see, I am typing data into a cell. And if I do Control Enter, the data gets assigned to the cell, but the cursor does not jump down to the next cell. Okay, so kind of a neat keyboard shortcut, Control Enter, and you can enter your data, but the cursor stays put. That kind of comes in handy when you're doing formulas, and I'll show you that later. Let me hit delete. All right, let's continue on with step 2 in the design process, typing in all the raw information. I'll type in revenue. I'm in cell A5. Let's see, we have sales, services, and consulting. I'll skip a row and type in total. I'm going to type in January right here. And I'll do a Control Enter. That way the entry gets assigned to the cell, but I can click and drag across my fill handle. Let me do that again real quick. Let me do Control Z. There we go. I did an undo. Yeah, Excel has all kinds of neat tricks to help you with your data entry. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my fill handle and drag all the way across. That's that little bump in the lower right-hand corner of your cell cursor. Okay, so I have January, February, March, April, May, June, and you can do all kinds of series in an Excel spreadsheet. Let's see here. I can type in Monday, and then go up to that cell, grab my fill handle, and it fills down. I can do dates 1/1/2024, and I can grab my fill handle and it fills in the dates. Yeah, Excel has all kinds of neat things that you can do with your fill handle and your auto. It's actually officially called autofill. Okay. All right, here we go. I'm going to type in total over here. We're still on step 2, getting all the raw data plugged in. I'm going to come down here and type in expenses. Let's see, we have lease on the building, salaries, let's see, utilities, and phone. And I'll skip a row, type in total. Okay, now I want to have January going across here as well, and use my fill handle and drag across. Okay, now I want to show you kind of a cool way. When it comes to Excel and anything in Microsoft Office, you have the long way to do things and the cool way to do things. When I mean cool, I mean a shortcut. So I'm going to highlight these months and delete them. And watch this. I can actually copy those 6 months down to this row here. I highlight my 6 months. I'm going to show you 2 cool ways. And I place my mouse not in the fill handle, but in the bottom edge of the range. And I can control, click, and drag. And that copies it down. Okay? That copies it down. Here's something even cooler. I can highlight my 6 months, and I'm going to right click and drag the bottom edge of the cursor down here, and I'm going to hit link here on the pop-up menu. There we go. So now there's actually formulas. If I look up on my formula bar, there's actually a formula up here that says equals B5. So for the next 6 months, like in July, and then fill it across, it automatically updates down here as well. Okay, so I think that's kind of cool. All right, okay, looks good. Let me get June back in there and fill it back across. I meant to do that before. Oh, whoops. I am so sorry. January. And then drag across. There we go. Okay, that's what I wanted. Had a brain cramp there. Let me go over here to total. Okay, looks good. Now I'll get my numbers plugged in. Let's see, we took in we think we're going to take in 85,000 in sales. Okay. Services 56,000. And consulting 42,500. And I'll go in and type in all these numbers. Take note that by default, numbers entered into an Excel spreadsheet are right aligned. Labels, text is left aligned. Okay, numbers to the right, labels to the left. LL, labels left. You can change it to whatever you want after the fact, center, right, whatever you want. But by default, labels to the left, text to the left, and numbers to the right. I'll go ahead and fill in all these numbers. I'll use the magic of IT here and get these numbers typed in very, very quickly. Okay, there's all of our numbers plugged in. So now we have all the raw data, step 2 complete. I'm typing in all the raw information. Let's go ahead and save the file as projection. We'll keep it simple. Hit my F12 key. That brings up my Save As dialog box. Notice the default file name is Book 1, but we'll type in 2024 projection. There we go. Now, once the file is saved, it's on my disk, it's on my hard drive, and the file name appears up here in the title bar. I don't see anything in the worksheet that indicates it's 2024. If you want to edit a cell entry, you can simply double click on it, and I'll change this to Pacific Computer Warehouse and hit enter. You can also just hit delete and retype it in, but if it's a long entry, I want to go ahead and just double click on it, and I'll click at the very end with my insertion point -2024. Okay. Also, take note that the text is wrapping over into the next cells. In cell B1 and C1, there really isn't anything in B1 and C1. If I look up on the input line, it's empty. Okay, everything's in cell A1. As long as I don't want to put anything over here, I'll be okay. If I do put something over here, just type in data, it'll cut off my A1 entry. It's still all in there, it's just being cut off. So I'm not going to have anything in those cells, so I'll be okay with that. All right, so step 2 is complete. We know the goal of the worksheet. We've typed in all the raw data. Now let's move on to step 3, getting some calculations. Adding up cells in Excel is such a popular choice. There's a button for adding up cells on the ribbon. Very important that you know everything you can about your ribbon. That way you're not spending a lot of time looking around for features. And we sort of did that with the application window in the last video we saw. Let me go back over here to home. I'm going to highlight my cells right here. Okay, remember my range? A group of cells is called a range, and that's H6 through H8. And I'm going to hit my auto sum button up here on the ribbon. That's my auto sum. Very popular button. And that adds up all my cells. Notice it puts a formula in that cell, equals sum. Sum means to add up. And then range B6 through G6. This block of cells right here. All right, I'll do the same thing in my row and hit auto sum. And so we've taken in, well, we think we're going to take in $859,875. And I'll repeat the steps down here for my expenses. And I'll highlight my total in row 19. And there we go. Okay, so we've taken in 859,000. We've spent 807,000, so it looks like we're going to have a little bit of a profit. Now the cool thing is once I have my formulas in there, if I change one of my numbers, they're going to update automatically. So if I change this to 75,000 and hit enter, all the totals update automatically. That's the big benefit about using a spreadsheet. If I was doing this on paper and pencil, I'd have to go in and erase all the other totals and then recalculate it. Let me hit undo. I love the undo button. It's up here on your quick access toolbar. Keyboard shortcut for that is Control Z. Control Z. Okay, let me go ahead and show you one more cool trick with the auto sum button. Now we know that when you drag across cells, that's called a range of cells, just like that. And I'm going to show you something kind of cool. You can actually highlight multiple different ranges at the same time, or non-contiguous ranges. Like I can highlight here, same thing in Word for Windows, and I can hold the Control key down, and I can highlight different ranges. I got the Control key held down with my left finger here, my left index finger, and I have these non-contiguous. That way if I delete or bold or something, I can do it to multiple ranges at once. So over here, I can highlight these 3 cells, hold the Control key down, highlight those cells, highlight these cells, highlight these cells over here. Okay, I've let go of the Control key. Now I hit auto sum, and everything gets added up very, very quickly. I'll save my file. I always put my cell cursor, I think I'm a creature of habit. I always put my cell cursor in A1 before I save it, because that's where the cell cursor will be located whenever I open the file. All right, so if somebody else opens this file tonight or tomorrow, it's going to automatically go into cell A1. All right, looks good. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to format this worksheet. Okay, we're going to format it and make it look good. The first thing we're going to do is see how it looks on a piece of paper. We're going to print preview it. So I'll go up here to my quick access toolbar, and there's my print preview button. Remember, if you don't see your print preview button, you can always click over here in the drop down arrow, and make sure print preview has a check mark, and my print preview button is there. Okay, and there's my worksheet. Okay. The good news is the goal of the worksheet has been solved. Let me get out of print preview. Yeah, I have my goal, well, almost have my goal. I've got my totals, okay, all my numbers. Actually, I don't really have the goal accomplished yet. I want to see my profit and loss for each month. So I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to type in profit / loss, okay, and we're going to do a formula, all right. Whenever I do a formula in Excel, I break it up into 3 pieces. I say what I want to do in plain language, then I say what I want to do numerically, and then I say what I want to do in Excel terms, okay? Excel terminology. Excel can be tricky because it involves so many disciplines. I mean, you got to know some math, you got to know business terminology, you got to know general computer terms, cut, copy, and paste and all that. So there's lots of disciplines rolled into one application with Excel. But what I want to do here is create a formula, okay? And in plain language, I want to take the total revenue for January and subtract the total expenses for January. Okay, step 2, numerically, I want to take 183,500 minus 136,102. In Excel terms, I don't use the numbers, I use the cell addresses instead. So I want to take the value in B10 and subtract the value in B19. So all calculations in Excel begin with the equal sign. So I'm going to type equals B10 minus B19. Okay, and it's color-coded, blue and red down here. So I have B10 minus B19. You can type lowercase letters or uppercase letters, doesn't matter. Okay, I prefer uppercase because it's just easier for me to read, I guess. I don't know. And I'll hit enter, and there's my profit. Okay, it's a profit because it's a positive number for January. Now, to copy this formula, to replicate it, I can go to my little fill handle here and just drag all the way across. There we go. And now I've solved my worksheet. The goal of the worksheet has been established. The goal of the worksheet was to calculate profit based on projected revenue minus expenses and then overall profit. So I have my overall profit for each month and then an overall profit for the entire 6 months. And it looks like we hope, remember this is a projection, something that hasn't happened yet, we hope we're going to make just over $52,000 in profit. Okay, now if I change a number, it'll all update. My lease is $60,000 a month, and I can type in 65,000, and all my numbers update in like 5 or 6 different places. Okay, I'll put it back to 60,000, and there we go. All right, so the worksheet works, and I'm also verifying my answers. Make sure your answers make sense. One kind of a cool way to verify your answers is I can highlight these numbers, not the fill handle. If I do the fill handle, I'm going to get that. I don't want that. I just want to highlight my numbers, and then look down here on the status bar, 136,102. And that's what matches in my cell. A lot of people overlook the status bar information down here. Look at that. I get all kinds of stuff. Okay, I can highlight. Let's say the boss says something like, "Hey, Bill, what's the total revenue just for the first quarter?" And I can just highlight those numbers for the first quarter, January, February, and March. And there's my sum, $489,275. A lot of people overlook that. I can highlight different numbers. Hey, Bill, what's the average for January and June? I can highlight my January numbers, hold the control key down, drag through the June numbers, and I don't see, well, actually, yeah, there is the average. 51,325. You can also right-click the status bar and get all kinds of different information. Max, min, sum. All right, looks good. Let me save the file. All right, now let's start formatting the worksheet a little bit. Right now, the worksheet doesn't look very good. I mean, it works. I mean, if I printed this out, I probably wouldn't get fired, but I wouldn't get a raise either. Let's turn this Jeep into a Ferrari. Okay. The first thing I'm going to do is once I go to print preview and then get out of print preview, I have a dotted line over here that indicates my page break. Okay, that's my page break. The first thing I want to do is widen my columns. By default, every column is the same width, 8.43 characters wide. I'm going to place my mouse up here between the A and the B, and I'm going to widen it to about 12. Kind of hard to get to. If you want an exact number, I can go up here to the ribbon and pick Format and then Column Width, and I'll type in 12 and hit Enter. There we go. I want these columns, January through total, to be 11 characters wide. So I'll highlight my cells. Doesn't matter which cells you highlight. I can highlight these if I want to. And go to Format, Column Width, and I'm going to pick 11. There we go. Now, unfortunately, if I go to Print Preview, part of my worksheet's gone. It's on the second page. I know that because look, the total column, column H, is past the dotted line, so it's on the next page. I'm going to change my page orientation to landscape. So I'll go to Page Layout, pick Orientation, and pick Landscape. There we go. I can go to Print Preview, and now I see it. I can still widen the columns a little bit more here. I'm going to make my A column 14 characters wide. And I'm going to make these 12 characters wide. Go Home, Format, Column Width, 12. Okay, we're looking a little better. Print Preview, that looks good. Okay. You can also heighten your rows. By default, every row is 15 points high. Yeah, columns are measured in characters. Rows are measured in points, like font size, 12 point, 14 point. So I'm going to highlight A5 all the way down. Whoops. And click Format Row Height and make it 20. There we go. Makes the worksheet a little bit easier to read. Let me widen my columns a little bit more. Format Column Width, I'll make it 14. And there we go. What I'm trying to do here is get my worksheet to go up to the dotted line. That way it'll be somewhat centered across the screen. There are ways you can center it, but I like just centering it, widening my columns. Plus it makes the worksheet easier to read. Alright, looks good. Let me go back to my worksheet and save my file. Alright, so that's our column width and our row height. It's all found underneath the Format button on the Home tab on the ribbon. Let's format our title now. I'm going to highlight my title all the way across. And I'm going to click on Merge and Center. That'll merge the cells. It's still A1. It's always A1. But now the Pacific Computer Warehouse is centered across the page. I'll make it 22 point. Maybe bold it a little bit. Hit the bold button. You probably already done all this stuff before, so I'll go through it kind of quickly. I'm going to make it like a blue with white font color. There we go. I'll do the same thing to the bottom title. Notice, if I'm going to use Merge and Center, I have to do them separately, otherwise it'll merge all the cells. You can't do them both at the same time. And let's see, I'll make this 16 point. Bold, blue fill color. If you're taking the certification test for this, make sure you always pick the right color from the color palette. Some of the colors can get pretty complex. Gray, accent 3, darker, 25%. Always make sure you pick the right color. Okay, it looks good. All right. Let's see here. I'll do the same thing for my column headings. Now, what you want to do when you're doing Excel is try to do as many things simultaneously as possible to shave down your time. So I'm going to highlight this Then I'll hold the control key down and highlight this. There we go. And I'll click my center align button, maybe bold it, blue background, white font color, and I'll do my middle align, okay? You basically have two types of alignment in a cell, all right? You've got your horizontal alignment, which is just left, center, and right, align left, align center, align right. Then you have middle align, that's vertical, okay? That's vertical. So I'll click that one, there we go. Looks good. If I do my print preview now, worksheet's looking a lot better. Okay, worksheet's looking a lot better. All right. Next thing I want to do is maybe format my numbers a little bit. Or actually, I keep formatting my text. When it comes to formatting your worksheet, format your text first, then your numbers. Numbers is kind of a big deal in Excel. All right. I'm going to go over here to Revenue and hit Left Align. Put it back over there to the left. Same thing with expenses. There we go. And for my items, my sales, service, and consulting, I'll hold the control key down and both those ranges are highlighted. And I'm going to increase the indent button twice. There we go. And hit italics. Okay. Looks good. I want to have borders underneath my text. I'm going to highlight the consulting row. And I'm going to click my borders button, which is located in the font group. Very important, especially in the real world and certification testing. Make sure you know your different groups within the ribbon. That helps you find things a lot quicker. The alignment group, the font group. And I'm going to click a bottom border here. There we go. You may not see it because it's highlighted, but once we go to print preview, you'll see it. And there's my border right there. Okay, for the total, let's see here. I'll do a top and double bottom border. And I'll also bold the text. Okay, now here's a really cool tool most people overlook, the Format Painter. That's where you can take the way something looks and apply it elsewhere. I want my total row in 19 and my total row, or my profit and loss in row 22 to look just like row 10. So I'm going to highlight row 10 and I'm going to double click my Format Painter button. And I'm going to single click total down here and single click total down here. Then I can hit escape to turn off the painter, and now my rows look the same. Format Painter is extremely cool, very often overlooked. You use your Format Painter, you'll save so much time. Okay, let's do our numbers. I'm going to highlight my numbers up here. Now, remember, Excel is all about numbers, okay? Italian restaurants are all about pasta. Burger places are all about burgers. Excel is all about numbers. Okay, so numbers are a very big deal. And there's a whole group of number formats up here in the ribbon in the number group. And you also have a drop-down list. Okay, where you can format your numbers. So I'm going to highlight this row. And I'm going to highlight this row. I got the control key pressed down. I'm going to highlight this row. Still got the control key down. This row. And this row. And I'm going to hit the $ button, or actually officially called the accounting number format. There we go. And I get commas, decimals, and $signs. Okay. Now I don't care about all those decimals. So I'm going to click the decrease decimal button up here. There we go. And now my $signs are formatted. I don't want $signs everywhere. It makes the worksheet look cluttered. So I'm going to highlight these numbers over here. What range address is this? This is what? B7 to H8. Extremely important in the real world and for certification test purposes. You know your range addresses. I'm going to hold the control key down and drag across over here. And I'm going to hit my comma style. So I'll get my commas, but I'm not going to get any $signs. and I'll decrease my decimals. Okay, there we go. And I think we're looking good. Let me do a print preview. Okay, this worksheet's looking very, very good. All right, I'm going to save it. Let's see, one other thing we do is maybe insert a little company logo onto our worksheet, kind of make it pop a little bit. I'm going to, let's see how it looks first. I'm going to go to Insert on my ribbon. I'm going to go to Illustrations and go to Shapes. And I'm just going to insert a little triangle in here. Where's the basic triangle? Here it is. Oh, there it is right there. Yeah, isosceles triangle. And I'm just going to click and drag a basic triangle. Okay, I'm going to rotate it with my rotate button right here. So it points here. Okay, I'm going to go up to cell A1 and I'm going to insert a row. Insert sheet rows. Okay, and that inserts a blank row up here. I'll show you why in just a second. I'm going to shrink my triangle down just a bit. And I'm going to put it up here. There we go. And there's my triangle. I'm going to go up here to Format on my ribbon. I'll change the shape fill to, what is that, orange? There we go, maybe Shape Effects. Let's see, maybe Bevel. There we go, that looks good. And I'll put a little dollar sign in there. Illustrations, online pictures. I'll type in dollar sign. There we go, just double click on that. Okay, I'm getting a copyright text box. I'll get rid of that. Click it, hit delete. And I'll make this a lot smaller. A little bit smaller. There we go. And there's our company logo. See, I inserted an extra row at the top here. That kind of gives room for the point of my triangle to kind of stick up off the top there. Okay, looks good. Let me print preview my worksheet now. And there is my first spreadsheet. Okay, there is my first spreadsheet. Looks good. If I want to edit it, I want to change it, okay, I can type in some numbers. Let's see, 56,000. Okay, everything updates. Always verify your worksheet. Make sure you get the proper numbers. There are times where I'll actually just pull out a calculator and say, hey, I'm not sure about this. Sometimes in Excel you have what's called crazy answer syndrome. Let's see, this student has a 90, a 95, an 83, a 94, an 87, and their average is 160, okay? Well, that's not right, okay, obviously. So I'll go ahead and pull out a calculator and say, hey, this doesn't look right. So I always make sure I verify my answers and make sure it's correct. Okay, I'll put my cursor back in cell A1, I'll save it, I'll do one more print preview. Okay, yeah, the last step I do, or step number 5, format and distribute the worksheet. Okay, I can just hit print and then give the worksheet to whomever wants it. Okay, supervisor, boss, manager, finance department. Okay, and the worksheet looks good. Okay, so that completes our first worksheet. So we'll stop the video here. Let's go back over to the classroom real quick, do a quick review, and then we'll wrap it up for this lesson. Okay, everybody, this concludes Lesson 1, Part 1. We built our first worksheet. We defined spreadsheets and what Excel is, what it can do. We built and saved a workbook using the profit and loss of the projected revenue and expense statement for Atlantic Computer Warehouse. We entered some basic formulas using the auto sum button. We selected ranges. We learned about ranges. We learned about the ribbon, the application window. We learned the 5 design steps to a worksheet, and then once the worksheet was completed, we learned how to print a worksheet. So that completes part 1 of this lesson, and I look forward to seeing you for part 2.